Good evening, everyone. It is May 20th, 2021. Ooh, lots of 20s in those numbers. Welcome. And we are doing I'm excited to say our first town hall-like meeting. We put the word like because this is actually a village meeting. I did get a question whether the town and the village are doing together right from the get-go. Let's just say no, this is actually the village board. Is very interested in hearing the community's point of view, comments, questions in an open forum like this, the first of the year, to really get some insights and input regarding the recently passed marijuana bill. We had shared it in the mayor's message and other places if you wanted more detail about it, etc. And really, it is a way for the board to listen and hear what the community has to say. We're going to do, and I'm going to actually do I would say 5-minute presentation, just so that we're all on the same pages. Might even answer some questions that some folks have. It'll also sort of give you the guiding principles for how we'd like to do the meeting. These kind of town halls for a board of 5 trustees, and Bob Fritchie is not able to join us tonight. Just so it is Deputy Mayor Quesada, it is Trustee Dana White, it is Trustee Omar Lopez, and myself, Mayor Levin, here to listen. If there are questions we can answer, we'd love to do that. We would love to give everybody a chance to speak, so we'll have people speak. We'll go to the next person. Jamie Hoffman will bring you on. We do ask that we go through the list of people first, and then if we have time, we might be able to go back to an individual or two, and if not, we'll get the emails. The presentation actually has some of the guiding principles, so we have about 25 attendees, which sounds about right. I do want to say that when there are 4 trustees on a call like this or in a meeting like this, unlike some of our colleagues who do these town halls by themselves, there is a little bit of how does one manage a meeting with a number of electeds. I'll sort of coach through the meeting, and we'll call on different trustees as the opportunity arises. So Maddie, if you would please. So we're here to really look at the legislation, the village's role, which is really what we want to focus, and then get some community input. The meeting is scheduled 7 p.m. for an hour and a half. Can you click? I can't click, right? So you're going to be doing it? Great. I will not be reading word for word, but the great thing about Zoom is everybody else can read it. And I'm assuming that this will go on the website over the next few days so that people don't have to take pictures of everything. So this is something that was signed, an act that was signed by the governor March 31st, passed both houses. So your state representatives, after spending over 7 years, have litigated all the matters, have listened to everything. This is law passed at the state level. We are not relitigating laws. We are simply going to discuss how local municipalities will now be involved with it. It's designed to create a regulated and taxed. I know the word cannabis is here. I am totally not comfortable with that word because it says nothing to me. So I'll be using the word marijuana industry in New York State. This is for adults only, similar to alcohol, based on certain amount of ounces. The sales are projected to begin late 2022. And I would say that's a very aggressive schedule because everything I've read says late 2023. A few things have to happen first. Next. There are going to be, as we are told, 2 agencies. There's the Control Board and Office of Management, permits, licenses, registration. They are following rules and principles very similar to the way alcohol is managed. If you look at the way alcohol in New York State is managed, sold, produced, moved, et cetera, that's a pretty good calibration of how this is being rolled out, and it's all at the state level. We do not at the local level have anything to do with that. And they will be creating these commissions and authorities, et cetera. Individuals must obtain a license before engaging in cultivation, processing, distribution, delivery, dispensing of cannabis or operating a cooperative, microbusiness, nursery, etc., etc. In plain English, basically, like alcohol, this is a highly licensed and regulated industry. It already exists in 15 states. I believe we are the 16th state. And everything I say, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I've no worries about that. So I'll just go with that. But I believe we're the 16th, which means there's some experience already. And we are by far not groundbreaking here at all. And it is going, the licensing is quite expensive, actually. So this is a highly regulated environment that we are discussing here. Maddie? Whoops. A lot of discussion for those of you on the call that know a lot about this, those of you who are totally new to this conversation, lots of discussions about revenues. I am not going to read all this. I will simply tell you that the estimate for the revenues is very high. There has already been agreement to how the taxes will be distributed. There is a question about, we're a town, we're a village, et cetera, et cetera. The tax revenue is quite high based on predicted sales across the board. And it's a growing business around the country. It's one of the fastest growing businesses actually for the past few years. The other issue that came up as the reason why your state representatives, in a wide margin, passed this, and why the governor signed it as well, after, as I said, many years of discussion and looking at all sides. Equity was another piece and another reason for this, which is to develop a plan to how to use some of the revenues based on equity. But really, for me, part of the pieces here is that 50% will be going to social and economic equity applicants. This is actually designed in all the states to help underserved communities and to help businesses that are minority-owned businesses. I don't want to just read. I want to sort of go through what I think this actually means. And the last point is quite important, and I don't know how many people look at it, but the expungement of criminal records related to some marijuana charges. So there is a series of writings in this that talk about expunging the records of people who have in the past few years had this on their record. In simple English, there is a lot of data that it is predominantly people of color. It is it's one of the pieces of the equity, and it is to expunge a lot of the criminal records for people who are caught with minor amounts of marijuana on them. Having a record of any kind related to drugs really prevents people from doing all sorts of things, having government jobs, being a police officer, a DA, sitting on certain boards, being in the military, and it stays with you really forever, including, by the way, in some cases, renting. So these three pieces, these three bullets are exceedingly important about the issue of equity as it relates to why our state representatives passed this legislation. Well, enforcement, you could look at this yourself, and our own chief of police has briefly spoken about it. Enforcement is very tricky. This is, I think, one of the issues that keeps coming up is laws are passed, but the enforcements are not necessarily in place. It's very, unlike alcohol, where there's been equipment for DUI and all sorts of things. It's very difficult to catch people who are high. It is, some of the edibles are odorless. It's very hard to tell. They look like gummy bears. There's all sorts of issues with this. But mostly the equipment that the police need to really do a lot of the enforcement is not readily available. And when it is, it's really expensive. For a village like ours, really expensive. And police have to be trained on it, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of talk about this, about the ability or inability of actual enforcement. And so that's something that needs to be looked at. Maddie? Do you keep going backwards, or is it my eyes? Or is it Prezi? So why are we here? There is really a couple of pieces to this. The local municipalities have been allowed, not asked. If we do nothing, we're in the program. It's done. But we do have an option, which is why we're meeting with the public, to opt out. Opt out totally. Opt out of having lounges, opt out of having dispensaries. Those are the options that we have. To opt in, you simply do nothing. And all of this has to be done before December 31st of this year, the end of this year. So if you opt out, and I think this is pretty clear, you get no revenues. You get none of the pieces that comes with it, but you also don't get anything that I discussed earlier. Can you go to the next one? Because I think it's pretty clear. I don't want to take all the time in a presentation. We'll never get to hearing from people. The staying in is simply no action, and then local governments will be notified as things roll out. We'll be told what's going on. There'll be a board, there'll be commissions, again, like alcohol. They'll tell us how this all works, and we will be in it. This again, everything is for adults. This is a bill about people 21 and older. There is going to be discussion, which is why we're having a public meeting, about the local regulation. Here's where we start talking about local laws that we may want to adopt. For example, we might want to limit the number of dispensaries. We may say we only want one, we may only want two. And we may say that it should be like alcohol, where it should be a distance from the school of 1,000 feet, or not near a house of worship, etc., etc., etc. This is where local regulation does come in. We can zone things in the way that we want to zone, and that is why we're here tonight, to start that conversation. We can regulate time, place, and manner. We can't regulate whether you can smoke marijuana in the street if you're over 21. That is not what we regulate. There are ways to regulate, for example, if we don't allow smoking or vaping or anything else in a park, in one of our parks, in a village park, we could look at regulating that you can't smoke marijuana either. But that's really, those are some of the parameters. There's more to it. Again, this is an overview. Maddie? The revenue sharing is a big deal. Something that people may not know. If we are looking to make an agreement with the town, because the way it is written, for whatever reason, if we have a dispensary, we will get 50% of the tax revenue, and the town will get 50%. We were actually not aware of that till recently. We are going to talk to the town and see what they want to do, because there are so many more people in the village than there are in the town. And one of the questions is the town opting in or out? You would have to ask the supervisor about that, and the board of the town board. Okay, so here we are, community input. Let us know your thoughts about the laws it relates to what we control. In our sphere of control, which is the village of Asane, how we might proceed based on what we need to proceed on, opt in, opt out, and some of the zoning issues that might happen. We can also consider permissive referendum if people want more information about that. You could submit that to us in writing, because it will take up the entire meeting to have that conversation. And anything that has to be answered by lawyers, I think we have a corporation counsel while he's on the call. I think it'll be easier if you mail to us. We're going to create FAQs on the website, and some of these questions that we get in clusters, we'll put them in FAQs so that people that are here tonight, some people may have opted, or a few other events going on tonight, it'll be available to everyone to look at more clearly. So let's begin. I'd just like to hear your name, if you're a resident, your address, if you will. It makes it important for us for our minutes, etc. Or just your relationship. Maybe you have a business here. Maybe you just like our meetings, or you like our trustees. I'm good with that. There's a lot to like. So, but just let us know. We'll give everybody up to 6 minutes. You don't have to speak 6 minutes. companies in California have started in fewer than 6 minutes, but you know, if you need that time, and Jamie Hoffman, about 4 minutes, about 2 minutes, when you have 2 minutes left, we'll just give you a little heads up that that's what you have left so that we can have everybody speak. We also have questions that came into us that I would like to address, but I'll do that at the end when everybody is done. And we're going to try to be respectful of everybody's time. Ask questions, you could just comment. Let us know how you want to move forward. We have in the chat, we have Q&As. I'm going to say that one of the trustees will be looking at it and we'll read them periodically. We've done this before so that we can intermingle, if you will. And I think, Jamie, the way you want to do this is people should look for the little hand.
Yes.
And raise their virtual hand. Are we done with this presentation?
I think it's
I'm sorry.
a lot easier if we close the presentation to do that. Yeah, so I just, for me also seeing the hands, it's a lot simpler. Anyway, so what we're going to do is I have the order in which people have raised their hand. That's the order we're going to do it. If you're looking for the hand on your Zoom, if you're on a computer, it's at the bottom where it says raise hand. So that's what you would do, and we'll just go in that order. So we're going to do that. Okay, so the first person is Jennifer Fields. I'm going to, your husband's right after you. So I'm going to bring you over, and then what we're actually going to do, Mayor Levin has asked that I turn your cameras on. So be prepared for that. It's not going to just be allowed to speak. I'm actually going to be making you a co-panelist, but when you're done, then I'll be turning that off. Okay. All right. Thank you. Hang tight. All right. Jen, we see you. Do you want to introduce yourself? And after you've done that, I'm going to begin timing you. Okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Rico would like you to turn your camera on.
Oh, yes. Hi. How's
It's
that?
nice to see everybody. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. So if you can introduce yourself, because not everybody knows you.
Yeah, I will.
But many of us do. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So I was going to start with that. Good evening, everybody. My name is actually, my full name is Jennifer Fields Tawil. Some people know me as Jen Tawil, Jen Fields. I don't really care what the mixture is. Some people may know me as I work for Assemblywoman Sandy Galliff. I just want to put it out there right now. I am here speaking for myself as an individual citizen, not related to my official position. But I will start with that the community should know that our Assemblywoman Sandy Galliff voted against this bill. And she voted against it because she did not see the benefit that it could bring to a community and its young adults. And I would like to speak as a concerned parent. For those of you who don't know, I have an 18-year-old who's now just graduated Ossining High School last year. And I have a almost 15-year-old who's a freshman in Ossining High School. And it's been very interesting and very enlightening to hear the difference in their experience at Ossining High School. My younger child has expressed to me that there is a proliferation of marijuana use in the high school. And because of the vape products that are available, it is goes undetected. But it is going on in the classrooms, in the bathrooms, in the hallways, outside the building, inside the building. There are Ossining High School students who are dealing marijuana vape products, mostly outside of the building. There are Ossining High School students who are using products in and outside the building. So there is already a proliferation of marijuana use by our high school students. And what I would like to say is, as a parent, and I'm also a member of this group, someone from our group is going to be speaking, but our group is called Ossining Citizens for Responsible Marijuana Legislation. And I'm not going to talk about, our group has submitted a letter to the board, but the one thing that I would like to say is a few things. Ossining has a choice to opt out right now, but we can always opt in. That is a choice. We can opt out, and then after December 31st, we always have the choice to opt in. That is perfectly fine. The problem is that if we opt in now, we cannot opt out after December 31st. So our group is using the terminology, we are asking the village board to take a pause on making this choice and having us opt out so that we have choice after December 31st. I think also people have to realize there are a lot of people who are I guess happy that this legislation has passed. And that's all very well and good. But I think people need to realize that the marijuana that is available today is not what people say the 60s, the pot of the 60s. The level of THC that is in marijuana today is probably 10 times higher than the marijuana that was going around in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And the vape products that are available today were not around decades ago. And if you're not aware about it yet, vape products are extremely, extremely dangerous to your physical health, to your lungs. And so, unfortunately, the bill that was passed by the state did not differentiate between
2
plant
minutes.
marijuana. Huh? What? Whatever.
Sorry, Jennifer, Jamie's role is to let people know they have 2
Uh,
minutes left. That's all she was doing.
Get it. Unfortunately, the bill that was passed by the state did not differentiate between plant marijuana and vape marijuana. So I would just like everybody to take a pause, really think about how this will affect the youth in Ossining, how that already without the dispensaries or lounges in our area, there's already a proliferation of marijuana in the schools, in the buildings. And so I'm just here to let everybody know that we don't have to make this decision right now. We can pause and make the decision after December 31st. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All good points. That was also something I learned after speaking, I believe, with you and a couple of other folks. As I get to know this more, that's why we're having the public meeting about it is true. We can wait for another time if we wanted to. And so you point to taking a pause. Thank you for that information. If I may, Jamie?
Yes, I just need to take Jen out, and then I need to, there's just a little bit more labor intensive here. All right, so Michael Tawil, I am going to be bringing you over similar to what we did before. If you can introduce yourself, I'm going to promote you to a panelist, and we ask that you turn your camera on. Thank you. Did it work? Oh. Okay, we just need you to unmute. Michael?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can, and we can see you.
Good.
Welcome, Michael.
Wonderful. Hello, Mayor. Hello, trustees. Hi, everyone else. So my name is Michael Tawil. I live in the town outside. For those of you that don't know me, I know everyone on the screen knows me. I am the immediate past town justice in the town of Ossining. I'm also a former town of Ossining board member. I want to just mention, when I was on the board in the town of Ossining, I was the cheerleader for Ossining, and Ossining was wonderful, and it still is wonderful. And then I got to the court, and then I got to see the seedy underbelly of Ossining. What a lot of people on this board and the community don't know is this is a community rife with drugs, with drug dealing, and drug use. We have heroin dealers, we have MDMA dealers, we have angel dust dealers, we have coke dealers, we have methamphetamine dealers, and we have pot dealers. And we have children in our school. I've learned, I'll repeat something that my wife said because she was going in and out. There is drug use rampant in Ossining High School right now. There are kids walking around the halls of Ossining High School, high as kites on marijuana. They're selling it in the bathrooms. They're selling it on the school grounds. They're selling it outside the school. This was eye-opening to me. I didn't even know that. And as was brought up before, we can always opt in. I think that this community does not need marijuana dispensaries or lounges in it. We have a bad enough reputation throughout the rest of the county for a various number of reasons, okay? I see some of the trustees shaking their head, but we do. And I think if you allow this, you are going to negatively impact property values in the town. I'm curious, is Briarcliff, is Chappaqua, is Croton, is Tarrytown, are they going to be allowing dispensaries? Are they going to be allowing vape lounges? Because if they're not, guess where everyone's going to be coming? To Ossining. And we're going to have a big problem with people driving high on our streets, people doing drug tourism, coming in to buy pot in Ossining. And I don't think we want that in this town. And I know that as a town outside member, I'm not in the village, but the village is in my town. And I would just ask the members of the board, please proceed with extreme caution and don't just look at the revenue that you're going to generate from marijuana sales, because what you lose is going to be much more than what you're going to gain if this town becomes a little marijuana oasis on the Hudson. You're going to get people coming from far and wide to come, consume, purchase, and who knows what's going to happen after that. You know, I know back when Mayor Hanauer was here in the town, they basically outlawed strip clubs because they didn't want that type of business in town. I would submit to you that even though marijuana is legal and going to be legal, do you really want that kind of business in town? I just see it as a major negative to the town and the village. And if people in the town want to go buy marijuana products, let them go to the town over where they're going to sell it. Why have them come here? Just for a couple of dollars, it's not worth further degrading the reputation of the village of Ossining. We have a major, major drug problem here. And, you know, I know people think marijuana is no big deal. And listen, I understand that point of view. I really do. But I think it's a bigger deal than some people think it is. And let's wait and see how it plays out in New York State and the surrounding communities before we jump in and let those businesses in. Because as you know, my better half said before, you can always opt in, but if you don't
2 minutes,
you can't opt out after this, and then we'll be stuck. And we already see people from outside the community coming in, putting in big developments because it's Ossining, putting in, you know, significant high density projects because it's Ossining. Who cares? Let Ossining get it. We don't want it in our community. We'll put it in Ossining. Well, let's try and stop that this time. Maybe Ossining shouldn't be the dumping ground of people that want to come and make a buck at everyone else's expense here. Okay? I really hope that this board takes that to serious consideration before they decide on this. I've been here for 18 years, and I just think this is a step in the wrong direction. You know, we already have one business in this town that when they were in Briarcliff, it was a beautiful mom and pop shop. When they moved to Ossining, crack pipes showed up in the window on Main Street. Great. We already have another shop right across the street from it with bongs and crack pipes where kids walk by going to school. Do you really want this town to become that? I know I don't. I don't want this town to become the East Village. Okay, if I wanted it to be the East Village, I'd move to the East Village. This is Ossining. This is suburbia. Please, let's try and maintain what little we have left of that suburban flavor in our town. Okay, thank you all very much, and thank you for listening.
So listening is part of it. Known you a long time, Mike, and to be transparent, I'm married to a judge, as most people know. Not a big secret. It isn't an argument about what you said. It's your opinion. But I will not have meetings and sit by and hear the commentary about the things that you say about Ossining. As far as seeing the underbelly, we have a drug problem, we have this. The Hudson Valley goes from Yonkers right up to Poughkeepsie. And
Well, we do, Lisa.
I would challenge anyone to show any data, and we have this happen all the time, to show any data that we have bigger drug problems, more dealers, more of any of the stuff that you describe, that you can drive right from Yonkers right to Poughkeepsie and go through every other town. And to answer your other question, so I am not disagreeing with your commentary, but as a mayor of this village, I'm not going to sit around and let people say things. Your opinion is your opinion, but let me give you my opinion and the kind of stuff I listen to. There is no data and no proof that there's more per capita, per square foot, per square mile, drug dealers and heroin addicts and all the other stuff in this community that exists in New Rochelle and Yonkers and Poughkeepsie, and frankly, in some of the most affluent communities in Westchester County. No data, no statistics. Your opinion, I'm fine. I'm sorry for getting a little angry. The issue about the opting in and opting out, well taken.
I didn't
To throw
say
that
that,
other stuff in.
Madam
not
Mayor,
okay.
I didn't say that. I didn't
Okay.
say that we're any better or worse than any community. All I said was we have a significant problem here. Okay, so please, anyone that thinks we don't have a problem in Austin with drugs is simply burying their head in the sand. I didn't say we're better or worse than anyone.
Okay, so we're equal to, and that takes me to your other question, which was a legitimate question I do want to answer because we'll get more of that. What will other communities be doing? Super fair question, very important question. You could have a point of view. We shouldn't be the only ones not having it because our people who want to buy it will just go to Croton or Briarcliff. So I did call other mayors, and I have said this at other meetings. This is not a secret. And I will let other trustees speak, by the way. I just wanted to say this because this is a forum. It's not just a meeting that we're just taking, but I do want to respond to some things because it's also supposed to be an education piece. I did speak to other mayors. I did speak to other village managers. I did not speak to Pleasantville yet, simply because I haven't gone there, but I have spoken to other communities, both cities, villages, and towns. And for the most part, no one said that they're opting out. They said the same thing we are, which is that now I suspect Pleasantville would, because Pleasantville has always, said they don't want, they've opted out before there was an opt-out. They actually have to redo everything. So I can't speak for that. But to answer about Briarcliff and Croton, I don't know. Right now, their board is doing what we're doing, which is they're deciding not everybody's having town hall meetings. My sense, however, is that there will be some that opt out, but most municipalities will follow the state because it has already been at the state level. We didn't create the legislation. So a lot of the conversations have already occurred. And for some communities, the revenue is quite significant. For others, not so much so. So people will decide, and they'll decide on exactly what we're going for. I just don't know if it's a question of affluence versus non-affluence. I just don't know about it. It's worth thinking about. I appreciate the point of view. It's the other stuff that I hear a lot of, and then usually Karen Diatori jumps in because she's actually looked at studies about this. You don't have to jump in, Karen, but I've learned that there really is no data about that we have more of all the bad stuff. We are a suburban community in one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, and virtually every zip code has issues. So I don't know if any other trustees and Michael, I don't know, but I just did want to bring us back to the conversation.
Madam Mayor, I just want to make clear, I did not say otherwise.
Okay.
I did not say that we're better or worse than any other community. I simply said that when I was on the board, I had no idea what was going on in town. And maybe other people do not know what's going on in this town and in this village. But we have a major problem. We have for a very long while.
Can we go on to another caller?
All right. I'm assuming no one else wants to comment.
So
Okay.
Michael, I'm going to move you out of the panelist role. You're now going to be moving back.
Mayor, if I may just clarify some of the stuff that was also said. Michael, it was nice seeing you. So there was regulations that we have done in the past in regards to different businesses. I was not part of the regulation in regards to strip clubs. I believe that was mentioned. What I do know, and Stuart probably is going to correct me if I'm wrong, there is a section on our zoning map that allows locations like that. Nothing can be built on that area, but there's a section that's dedicated for situations in that matter. What we can do is we can regulate stuff like
Right.
that. You know, and that's what we have done in the past. I remember I was part of the board when a pawn shop wanted to open in our downtown, and we actually craft regulations in regards to that in locations where those type of retail businesses could be placed, with the help at that time of the police department and other departments. You know, so things of that nature we can do. And if the board at some point decides which way we want to go, that's something that will be, my suggestion will be to be looking into it as well as a part of the process. At this point, me personally, I would like to listen more than talking. So I just want to hear the opinion of the public because that's who I serve. So, but in situations that I just want to clarify or put my 2 cents on it, I would like to speak, Mayor. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
right.
Dana, should we take one more? I don't know. I said Dana. I'm sorry, Jamie. Should we take Macolata and then maybe we could read a couple of the Q&As? There's some interesting questions in the Q&A.
Okay, so I'm going to promote Macolata over. If Matt, you are going to become a panelist. So when you're over, if you can unmute your line. I don't know if you're here yet. There you are. If you can turn off your camera, turn on your camera. And I will let you know when your time is up. Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. We just can't see you.
Okay, I'm trying my best. I apologize.
We'd like to see you. It's nice to see you, Matt.
So Matt, when you have an opportunity, after you get your calendar on, I'm sorry, your calendar, my goodness gracious, your camera on, I'm looking at the clock saying clock. I will, after you've introduced yourself, because not everyone knows you, and then I will.
Hey.
Oh, hey, there you are.
There you are. So if you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Rika Levin and trustees. My name is Matthew Galata. Over 20-something years here in the village of Ossining. And I'm speaking tonight as a parent. I respect and I voted for a lot of you on this board, and it comes down to leadership. I don't believe we're followers. I believe everybody on this board is a leader, and they process the information, and I believe in their hearts they're going to do the right thing. I'm coming on this call. 2 things. I personally believe that we should opt out. Let's wait till after December. And the reason being is that there's too many we don't know. And I'm sure other communities and other villages are going to see which one does, and they're going to wait and see what happens with them. My biggest concern is the youth. Mayor Rika Levin mentioned about the cost of the equipment. Some could say, well, we're going to get sales of 3%. I don't believe money should be, even though this pandemic, everybody's hurting, and I could see how legislators could see how it could be a source of revenue to help other areas of the community. I do get that, but it comes down to this: the police don't have the equipment to date. New York State doesn't even have the equipment to date, and how to verify who's intoxicated, what how much, when someone gets pulled over, how much you smell it, or you've got to blow into a pipe or whatever it is. It's not even, we don't know that yet. And it's not going to happen quickly. And I believe it's a major problem. I also believe that for the youth getting arrested, I believe that it's going to be more youth being arrested, because more people are going to be driving, more people are going to be walking around and getting high because they don't know yet the full effects of how high it, how potent it can be. So there's a curve, right? So I believe that there's a lot of negativity that's going to happen in the beginning. I truly, honestly believe that. So if we wait and we see what goes on and how we can address things, and then how we can implement, you as a board can implement things from other towns and other instances that will be on the news, people driving, getting into accidents. I believe the park issue, I did not know that. I was actually shocked. Maybe I misunderstood that. I mean, I was very proud when Assemblywoman Gallup and other trustees were at the park, Lewis Engel Park and other parks, and there was no smoking and no drinking. And now I'm here. So I'm not quite sure. You would have to make a separate decision on having pot smoking in the parks. I would think that would be automatically not allowed. If I'm pushing my grandchild in the park, I definitely don't want to have pot smoke through the park.
Matt, I can't answer the question. We're jotting it all down, but I don't want you to get, you know, too crazy about that piece of it. I mentioned it because that's already being looked at.
No, I know.
There's going to be a
But-
real good prescription on how we do that.
But I was shocked that it wasn't even like, I thought it would be
Automatic?
automatically. Yeah,
No,
automatic.
but Mayor, if I may, and Matt, sorry to interrupt. So Stuart, I don't know if you're still there, but we
Sure.
do have a ban for smoking on our parks, and that's throughout the village parks and the town parks. So because we do have that in place, and there are signs throughout all the parks, trust me, I know because I made a big deal about that last year and the year before that. And Karen, our manager, can testify about that because I went to all the parks and made sure the no smoking signs were actually visible on the playgrounds and at the entries of every single park that we have. So maybe it's just something that, you know, Stuart, please correct me on this one. So because the smoking is not allowed, will that entail obviously marijuana as well, smoking on the park grounds?
I have to double check because there are certain provisions of both of the public health law which deal with where you can smoke, and that does extend to marijuana as well, and in terms of what kind of public locations. So there are provisions of the public health law which would in fact cover smoking in, you know, open public places or closed public places. So that is something. It'll be clarified. Let me put it to you that way. We're not
Thank you,
going to
Stuart.
basically have two different classes of
Yeah.
smoking.
Sure.
And
So
so,
that should help you. That should answer that.
yes, so thank you. And like I said, I've been in this village. I've had instances working with you guys, you trustees and the mayor. I believe you guys will make the right decision. It's not going to be easy. I know there's going to be a lot of pushback this way and that way. That's why you're elected officials. I mean, you guys are going to have to come to grips of what do you think is best for the village. It's not easy. I'm just saying tonight that I do honestly believe that there's going to be a lot of negativity in the beginning. There's going to be
2 minutes.
a lot of things going on that I don't know, you guys don't know, and it's going to come to us with people through their actions of other communities doing things. So if we wait, we opt out, you make strong legislation, make strong recommendations, and then vote on it. I think whatever you decide after that will help Ossining and the town of Ossining, but I know this is the village call. But I think you guys will make the right decision, but please really consider and just consider, I know the money, some village trustees you'll talk about it. I know the money sounds enticing, but I believe our health and our welfare trumps that. So thank you for tonight. Thanks for everything that you guys do. You do not get paid enough for what you do. And this is one of these things that are going to keep you up at night, but I believe you'll come to the right decision. So thank you all and have a great night.
Thank you, Matt. I am going to bring you back to an attendee.
Jamie,
Yes,
can we have
ma'am.
Dana read a couple of the Q&As? We have
Absolutely.
about a dozen of them. Maybe
Okay,
we can
Dana.
even cluster some of them. You're on mute, Dana. Dana, you're on mute.
You're still muted, Dana.
All right. Hi, sorry about that. You think I would have the hang of this by now. So someone asked, is this going to be a public vote or is it just going to be the board making the decision?
Board makes the decision on this initiative.
However, isn't it true that if we opt out, that a referendum is required, a vote in the village?
Stuart?
There are two ways you can have the referendum. One is that if the village wants, they can, in their resolution, basically waive the requirements for signatures for a public referendum and allow the public to immediately go to a public referendum. Otherwise, it would have to comply with, I believe it's Article 9 of the village law in terms of getting the appropriate number of signatures and then holding a public referendum. So there is the provision for a public referendum, and one of the ways that a municipality can engage the public further is that they would waive the requirement for the signatures to allow the public to go directly to the public referendum.
Thank you, Stuart.
Sure.
Dana?
Another question is, does licensing or regulation allow the community to decide where someone can open a retail establishment? I guess we talked about that. There are
Yeah, that's a zoning issue. Yep.
issues. We talked about the parks, right?
Yep.
I'm looking for questions. There's a lot of statements.
Yeah.
Michael Twill asked, does that mean that a referendum is required if we opt out?
Well, you just answered, no?
I think that, is it required?
It's not that you have, what it comes down to is the municipality has the right to have a public referendum. Required is in the sense is that there is an ability to have the public referendum. It's not mandatory. In other words, if you don't get enough signatures and the board decides not to waive the signature requirement, there wouldn't be a public referendum. It's not a mandatory referendum. It's what's called a permissive referendum. That's the key thing.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest that some of the legal issues, we will have a corporation counsel as we get clusters of the legal issues. We will put those in the Q&A so people can read it, Google it, whatever, ask more questions.
Okay, I have one more. Here's a good, Christopher O'Connor says that as a town resident of 19 years, a parent who grew up in an affluent Westchester, Ossining, has an opportunity to be a leader here and embrace adult cannabis. There is no drug problem in our specific town. It's everywhere already. Take it from the underbelly and regulate it. As stated, it's a highly regulated industry. The consumers are high-level consumers. Having purchased legally in the US and spoken with the owners and surrounding businesses, it was a net positive.
Okay, I think, thank you. I don't know the order that you have the next person, Jamie. I don't want to pick people. I just want to go in some sort of
No,
order.
I have an order.
Okay.
Yes. So just whenever you're ready for me to do it, I will.
You know what I would like you to do? I'd like you to do the person that's being called and the next two people. Maybe they want to get a cup of coffee, whatever. They'll know that they're up because I'm not sure they see it the way.
Well, we're taking about 10 minutes per person. So that this way each person knows how they're doing. So the next person is Alice Joslow. The following person is Kevin Hernandez, followed by Diana Levin. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. So I am going to, Alice, I'm going to bring you over to as a panelist. And if you could, hi Alice, if you can unmute and turn off your head of the game. If you can introduce yourself to us, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alice Joslow. I think I know all of you. Thank you very much for having this public meeting. And I'm speaking to you as an individual, just as Alice Joslow. However, I'm going to read you a letter that was referenced earlier in the meeting from an ad hoc group called Ossining Citizens for Responsible Marijuana Legislation. This letter was supposed to be read tonight by Francine Vernon, but she is unable to read it tonight. She's got a conflict that came up. So I'm going to start now. We write to you as a group of key leaders in the Ossining community who are concerned citizens about our youth and our community's public health. We write to you as a group of residents who urge you to take a pause approach in our village regarding the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, known as MRTA, which was recently adopted by New York State. The MRTA law provides cities, villages, and towns the option to opt out of allowing retail dispensaries and/or on-site consumption establishments from locating and operating within their boundaries. The opt-out must be done by December 31st and explicitly states that the municipality may repeal the opt-out at any time going forward. But if the opt-out is not adopted by December 31st of 2021, then the municipality may not choose to opt out ever again. So this is an irreversible decision. By adopting a pause approach and thus opting out for the short term, you will provide time for us to fully assess the impact of the MRTA on our local community. Many of the nuances related to the implementation of the MRTA law are not yet known. The MRTA establishes the creation of 2 new state agencies called the New York Cannabis Control Board and the Office of Cannabis Management, which will both provide regulation and oversight regarding the new law. Currently, neither agency is fully staffed or fully operational, and thus none of the regulations and oversight policies have been created. As such, we urge you to take a pause approach and thus opt out with the option of being able to opt back in when we can fully study the law's impact on our community. Our youth look to all of us as community leaders who safeguard them. By taking a pause approach, you will be setting the example of not rushing to make a decision without a clear understanding of how the MRTA will fully impact our community and our youth, both long-term and short-term. Further, given that there are so many unknowns, we encourage you to consider having another town hall later, as there are so many unknown implementation specifics at this very moment. As village trustees, there are very few policies you vote on that are irreversible. Until more is known, we believe it is unwise to make an irreversible decision without having all of the necessary information. We thus urge you as a governance board to take a pause approach. Thank you all for your service and commitment to our Ossining community and to our most important asset, our young people. And the people that have signed this letter so far in alphabetical order are Marissa Caruso, Lindsay Farrell, Anna Guzman, Alice Joslow, John Girolamo, Matt Galata, Karen LaRocca-Fells, Marcella Levin, Renee McCormick, James Montague, Ellen Morehouse, Bradley Morrison, Allison Perriott, Kemi Pogue, Ray Sanchez, Beth Sniffen, Matt Sniffen, Jennifer Fields Tewill, Shirla Takuru, and Francine Vernon. And I forgot to say at the beginning, I'm Alice Joslow from 38 Sunset Drive in the Village. So thank you very much. And
Thanks, Alice. And I'm assuming you're
send you-
emailing it to us, right?
Yes, I will send you a PDF.
Great.
But we will be collecting more and more signatures. I'll send you the people that have signed it so far, and then I will continue to send it to you as more people sign on.
Okay.
And again, all of us are signing on as individuals. And I also do just want to make one comment, given that you were concerned that perhaps some people were insinuating that our drug problem was worse than other communities. I want you to, as you know, I work in this field very closely, and I'm aware of all the communities across the county. And typically, the drug use correlates, there's more drug use in wealthier communities.
Right.
But those also tend not to be the places where some of these establishments open. So just putting that out there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all you guys do. I know it's a tough job. I was just elected to my 4th term as a library trustee. So that is going
Congratulations.
to that I will be completing my 8th term as an elected official. So I really have the highest regard for all of you and appreciate you for what you do. This is not an easy job. Thanks.
Thank you, Alice.
Yeah,
Sorry.
before moving on, I'd
Please.
like to quickly respond. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Alice. And I'd like to respond to the folks who have written that letter. First, I want to thank you for your engagement, your participation in this process. Your voice is absolutely critical to us being able to move forward in a way that is considering as many perspectives as possible. And I want to start with where we agree. We absolutely, by we, I mean I, Omar Lopez, and the folks who have written the letter. Where we agree is that being able to protect our youth is really, really important. I'm a teacher. I'm a former teacher at both high school and middle school. Having seen the effects of drugs in the community and youth, I recognize the importance of being able to have proper education and trying to avoid drugs in our youth as much as possible. Where we agree is with the elimination of vapes. Vapes, no matter how old you are dangerous, and there's a lot of evidence, more and more, which is why there have been the reformation against tobacco vapes. And so I think the same thing should apply to cannabis vapes. And then third is in working together, how these establishments, whether they're dispensaries or lounges, should not be the kind that Mike Tawil described, where you're walking by and it's this kind of ostentatious presentation. At the same time, I want to talk about where we disagree. I've been to many states and countries where cannabis is legal, to Canada, in Europe, but here in the United States, in California, in Massachusetts, and in many places. And I can tell you that they don't look like that. As others, I think, might bring up later on, depending on the place, it looks like a combination between an Apple store and a pharmacy. To get into the establishment requires multiple ID checks. It's not the kind of issue that we see, for example, with our establishments that sell alcohol, where the chief every now and then comes to us and says, we've done an alcohol check. These establishments were shown to be selling alcohol to youth, where it's relatively easy, and we're constantly trying to fight that battle. They're going to be very limited, the kinds of establishments, whether they are dispensaries or lounges. So that's one quick thing to consider. And the second is I want to look at the data. So I totally am with you in wanting to educate the youth and in trying to avoid drugs with our youth. But the studies that have, I want to look at the data. What do the studies show? There are 3 that came out this year. This is the only time that I'm going to read anything like this during the meeting, but I think it's important to get the facts out there. So and each one is, to me, ever more convincing than the other one. So the first one was a longitudinal study of tobacco use among folks who are non-daily cigarette.
Did everybody lose him? Omar? Omar?
Yeah, Omar. Yeah, Omar.
Omar?
Omar, you may have hit mute on your.
No, it's not mute. Omar?
No, he doesn't hear anybody.
Okay. Let me text him.
Omar, we cannot hear you.
He can't hear us. Hold on. Okay, let's pause here.
Whatever he's saying it with passion.
Yes.
Okay, I should be good now.
There you are.
You got it? Okay.
I got it.
We don't know why, but we lost you there for a bunch of times. So we're going to have to start again.
Okay, thanks. So the first, and you let me know if it ever meets again. So the first study, these are all studies from this year, where it looked at 563 young adults. I'll put all of this in the Q&A so folks can see the references as well. 563 young adults in California aged 18 to 24 in 2015 and 16. I followed them for 3 years after the legalization of recreational marijuana in California. And it showed that there was no, the frequency of use did not change significantly overall, including after legalization. I'd say, okay, well, that's just California. What about at a national level? Well, Canada, they legalized recreational cannabis for use in adults in October of 2018. And they wanted to emphasize the reduction of cannabis among the youth. And what they found was that in a cross-sectional sample of 102,000 youth, where they looked at them over a couple of years, there was no significant difference in trends of cannabis use over time between cohorts for any of the frequency metrics. So cannabis legalization has not yet been followed by pronounced changes in youth cannabis use. Okay, you're thinking that's Canada, right? This is the United States. We're a little bit different. Let's take a look at the United States. This is, again, a 2021 research paper. This natural, and I'm reading verbatim, this natural experimental study used the Youth Risk Behavior Study, the YRBS, data to collect participants. These are kids from grade 9 to 12 and it was from the year 1991 to 2015 across 46 states. So it tracked 1,091,723 young people between grades 9 to 12. And what it found was the natural experiment of laws of states that had medical marijuana laws, including dispensaries, and those that did not. The study found no evidence between 1991 and 2015 of increases in adolescents reporting the past 30-day marijuana use. So they asked them, did you use marijuana in the last 30 days? And they said no. Or heavy marijuana use associated with the state medical marijuana law enactment or operational medical marijuana law dispensaries. So when we're looking at the data just doesn't bear out that if we were to have dispensaries or lounges in Ossining, it would then result in an increased use of marijuana. However, the reality is that we agree that there needs to be education with the youth because it's not going to be magical. The reason that those numbers are what they are is because there is an effort to educate young people about the dangers of consuming cannabis if you are underage. So I appreciate you humoring me, listing out all the data.
Thank you. So we scheduled this for 90 minutes. I've gotten a text from somebody else that given that we allowed everybody 6 minutes and that we're talking, which is what town halls do. If you watch other town halls, not abnormal. It's our first one. You'll have to just be a little patient. If we have to go a little bit over 90 minutes, we will, but we do know people get tired and people have families. We're going to do the best we can. I'm going to shorten it down maybe to like a 4 minutes, just so people get to speak. If somebody has a real issue that they can't get their thoughts in 4 minutes, just let me know. It's not meant to do any harm. I just want to get through this. If for as many people, I do suggest you put into the chat. Omar, you could make copies of everything in the chat so that we would have it. We are going to discuss this more. This is not a once and done. That's why we are probably one of the first municipalities to have a town hall about this. We know we have an active community. We know we have other initiatives that people want to talk about, so don't get scared. Do put in the chat room. Some of you prefer writing than talking, but let's move it down to 4 minutes just so people get a little bit more. And I promise not to talk as much. That might help as well. But Omar and everybody else, any other trustees, you want to jump in, it's a town hall meeting. That's what they're there for. That people always complain we don't have enough conversation. So it's good to have some conversation. Thanks. And Omar, you said you're putting the links in. Did you for the studies? Okay. Thank you.
And Omar, if you want to send them to me, I can add it to the website as well. Okay.
For sure. I'm going to respond to Alice's comment. That's what I'll
Okay.
put by.
All right, no problem. All right, so Kevin Hernandez, I'm going to bring you over now as a panelist. If you can, cool looking.
But up at that is Diana Lemon, and after that, Jamie is up after that.
And then Carolyn D'Agostino, and then Christina Picciano. Okay,
Great.
so Kevin, if you want to turn on your microphone and introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
My name is Kevin Hernandez, and I'm a freshman at the Ossining High School. And I'm here speaking as a student who might see the effects of marijuana among students. So basically, if allowing marijuana sales in our town will add to their perception among teens that marijuana is not bad, more teens will be exposed to marijuana, which will lead to more teens using it. So, by the way, these are like facts that I found out and also being given by a teacher. And recent studies have shown that teens who live within 4 miles of marijuana shops are more likely to use it than others. If our trusted community leaders are allowing this to be sold in our town, it also has you thinking among teens that it is safe because we look to our community leaders to set a good example. Also, if there are marijuana stores in our town, studies suggest that this will also increase the likelihood of a drug driving in our town. Also, please consider taking this pause until we learn more about the implications of having marijuana shops in our town. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Oh, you got off so quickly. Thank you, Kevin Hernandez, for your participation. I appreciate the insight.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I'm going to bring you right back over as an attendee, and The next person is Diana Lemon. I am going to bring you over and give you 4 minutes to speak. If you could introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Diana. If you can unmute and turn your camera off, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Good evening, everyone. I have so many thoughts that I want to share on this. One, I do want to acknowledge Trustee Levin for clarifying that Ossining is not this drug ravished community as what was, sorry, give me 1 second. I don't know if, do you hear anything in the background?
No.
No, you're
No,
fine.
just me?
Good.
You're
Oh,
coming
okay.
in very clear. No problem.
Okay. All right, I'm in my car and I hear. All right. So I want to thank you for clarifying that, because I don't believe that to be accurate as well. And before I go further, I'm speaking as Diana Lemon, an individual, not affiliated with anyone I work with, not affiliated with any positions that I hold in the community. This is just my personal opinion. I have a unique perspective. I'm a caregiver that participates in the New York State medical marijuana program for my daughter, who is a teenager, who had to use medical marijuana when she was ill. And had to go to White Plains, to go to a dispensary to get something that could have very well been something I got in my own neighborhood. And I also want us to be very clear about what's on the table here. This is about adult consumption, not youth. So the centering of, you know, the youth, I get it. It's no different than the students who live in walking distance of Park School that see a liquor store. But I don't see there being this outrage for that. We can't pick and choose the things that, if you're going to be outraged for it, be outraged for it all. Furthermore,
2 minutes.
Furthermore, when we are talking about cannabis use, I know there was a student that was on here and he mentioned the research that he did. I want to implore him to do some further digging, because if you look deeply into marijuana prohibition, you will see that it's deeply rooted in racism, starting from the 1900s when Mexican immigrants came to the United States. So if you dig further, you will understand that there are some more truths that are not being told to you about the actual use of cannabis. I believe that Ossining has an opportunity to be a leader. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. There's the idea of maybe possibly creating a committee that could regulate how people are coming into our community, how they are represented, how they appear, and to our community, not just our youth, but our community as a whole. So I'm just trying to scan through all of my notes. I think the park, yeah, I think that that's pretty much it, but points that I can hit and be respectful of the time. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
We thank you, Ms. Lemon. Also, feel free to put anything you want in writing and just send it to us. If you just want it to us, state so. If you want it to be like the public, put it on the Q&As, whatever, helpful as well. We encourage it. Thank you for the input. Is it Jamie next? We can't hear you. Still, you have your mute on, Jamie.
Yes, I've been talking the whole time. Jamie Eddy, I'm bringing you over. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great. And then if you can also.
Hi, how are you? Jamie Eddy. I live in the village on Susquehanna Road. I am going to concur with Diana Lemon, what she just said, as a person who uses medical marijuana because I suffer from brain tumor and lupus. I have to travel to either White Plains or Yonkers to dispensaries to get something that could readily be easily available in my town too. All the dispensaries I go to, they all look like pharmacies on the outside. You have to get in through certain parameters. You can't just get in. I think if you're going to say that the kids are already doing it in this town, that's not the same stuff. It's not regulated stuff. I mean, if kids have access to it now, that's a different problem than this. This is something that we can actually have control over and have it regulated. It would be a tax revenue for our town. Personally, for me, I would rather shop in my own town to get something I need and hopefully bring the cost down of what my medical marijuana currently costs me. That would be very helpful. I do not drink alcohol. There's a ton of liquor stores in our town. So I feel it's the same way if we treat it like we do 21 and older. It's an adult thing. This is not for children. Nobody's pushing this for children. I just have a different opinion on it. And I agree with Diana, so I don't really need to say the same stuff that she just said. So that's all I need to say.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You too.
I'm bringing you back over as an attendee, Jamie, and then I'm going to take a look here. Give me a moment. So the next person to speak is Carolyn D'Agostino, followed by Christina Picciano, and then Mike Russo. So Carolyn, I'm going to bring you over. If you can unmute, turn on your camera, and introduce yourself. Thank you. I think you muted yourself, Carolyn.
Sorry, it dumped me out and it rejoined me.
So we can hear you now, so.
You're good.
And I'm trying to open my video there.
That's
Hi.
hello.
My name is Carolyn D'Agostino. I did send a letter in and I'd like to share it with you. I am a lifelong resident of Ossining and a huge outspoken fan of the town, of the village. I'm always on foot around the village with my sister. We walk all over Ossining, and I went through the high school. I am a parishioner of St. Anne's. My dad built many houses in and around the village of Ossining. So all of this is near and dear to me. And I want to start by really thanking all of you for the work that you do. I know it's not easy work. I know that there are many issues that you have to really grapple with. So I'm so appreciative that you have opened this up to hear people's ideas and thoughts about this. And I think everybody has been so thoughtful in what they're sharing. I'm really hoping that we will opt out of this. I think the revenue makes it so tempting and makes us think of all that, the things that we could use that revenue towards. But with so many of the other speakers this evening, I'm very concerned about the young people in our community. My dad died 3 years ago at age 100, and he was born in Ossining and really believed in the community, and he would never miss a vote for the school. And he always made us make sure that we wouldn't either. So May 18th, you've got to go down and vote. And he would say into his old age, if we don't invest in our kids, what does that say about us? So forever, he believed that we always take care of the school first. His favorite building in town was the library, such a hub of community and such a sign of what we stand for in Ossining. There is a wealth of information that says that marijuana is really detrimental to teenagers, that it has such a huge impact on their brain before it is completely developed. And we know that it impacts them long term. I really believe that there is a lot of evidence that in every community that's had legalization for recreational marijuana, there's been a big jump in adolescent use. And I just want us to slow down and really not jump into this. We know that we can opt back in, but we cannot opt out after the December deadline. So please consider opting out until we know more about the board that's going to control it, until we know more about the way it's going to be regulated. The last speaker said that we'll be able to legislate it and regulate it. There are many things we will not have any control of once it's gone outside of our hands. So again, thank you so much for all the work you do. Thank you for your serious consideration of this. I'm so appreciative of all of you and of our community, and I really do hope that we consider opting out at least until we know more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. 100 years old. Amazing. Jamie, you're on mute.
Thank you. Carolyn, I'm going to bring you back over as an attendee, and then we are coming back. Christina Picciano, I'm going to be bringing you over as a panelist, and if you can please turn on your camera and unmute and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Picciano. I'm a resident in the village of Ossining, and I'm born and raised in Ossining. I want to thank you all for putting this together. I think it's really informative. But I'm also here to clear up some common misconceptions surrounding cannabis and legalization. And I also want to add that unlike some of the other people who have spoken, I think Ossining is an eclectic and diverse town to live in, and I love it here. And a lot of my friends are moving up here for the same reasons that I chose to live here as well. I'm 34 years old, and the majority of the funerals I've attended are not because of old age, but because of opioid abuse. The majority of those funerals are under the age of 35. We have an opioid epidemic. We do not have a marijuana epidemic. I just recently had surgery, and I was given opioids. I went through 20 pills in 2 days. Because of that, I was able to get a medicinal marijuana card as an alternative to opioids to manage pains. If I had kept on the route I was going, I would have been addicted. The gateway drug here is not cannabis. The gateway drug is your medicine cabinet. Cannabis is an exit drug and an alternative to opioids and benzos that are chronically overprescribed. The gateway drug here is trauma and chronic pain. We talk about financial gains, but we don't talk about the allocation of those funds. We can use financial gains from the legalization to youth programming to help combat depression, anxiety, and creating a safe space for our kids. It's a common misconception that dispensaries are seedy. Many are worried that they would resemble the head shop on Croton Avenue. This is far from the truth. Opening a dispensary is a huge investment. The application fee to the state alone is $210,000. If you are denied, you are refunded $200,000, so you lose 10. The application fee of $200,000 has to be renewed every 2 years. The amount of money to start and maintain a dispensary, upwards of $1 million, signals that we, A, will not be saturated with dispensaries like we are with nail salons and barbershops, and B, a large amount of capital will be invested in our village, which will attract other investors, and C, it will not resemble the head shop on Croton Avenue. I don't even think that that building would qualify based on its layout. In regards to safety, I urge you all to speak with and take field trips to dispensaries. I said before in my letter that it looks like an Apple store and a pharmacy. You can't touch anything. You can't just grab weed off the shelf and smoke it. It is very, very, very regulated. It is very secure. You can't get in that door if you are under the age of 18. I really think we need to take the time here to research, visit dispensaries, talk to other municipalities that have them. I have visited them. The people that go there look like everybody here who have spoken. I think this would be a great thing for Ossining. We've debated this topic for 7 years here in the state, and it's about time we do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. Much appreciate your input as well. Beautiful picture in the background. Jamie, and you're on mute, Jamie.
Yes. Thank you, Christina. I'm moving you over to attendee, and then I'm going to go through the list of the next several people. So Mike Russo, you are next, followed by KJ, and then followed by Catherine Ossining. So
Crossling. Does it say Crossling?
Crossling. Oh my God! You know what? I had my hand over it.
I thought maybe Catherine changed her name appropriately. Who knows?
No, not today. Okay, Mike, I'm bringing you over. Okay, Mr. Russo, you're here. If you could turn your camera on and unmute and introduce yourself. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Michael Russo. My wife and I moved up to Ossining along with our 7-year-old, and we also here have a 3-year-old. We moved up Ossining, I think at the end of 2014, actually. We were I was born in Brooklyn. We were both born in Brooklyn, and we really love Ossining. It really reminds us of Brooklyn, the diversity and just the village. And we live in the village on North Malcolm Street, and we really like Ossining a lot. And we're very excited to raise our family here and raise our kids here. And that's actually why we're very excited about the marijuana legislation, because we know prohibition does not work. It has never worked. It just makes things worse. And by legalizing this, you have much better regulation. I feel safer, and I've visited dispensaries. I can attest that it's also very professionally run, much more professionally run than any liquor store I've ever been to. There's no getting away with anything. And you know, we tried prohibition for alcohol a long time ago, and it didn't work. It was horrendously bad. And alcohol is absolutely so much worse than marijuana in so many different ways. Talking about developing brains, I mean, it's just you can't even compare. So we know that, you know, prohibition does not work. I really think it makes things a lot worse, and I'm totally fine with having dispensary here. I don't think there'd be more than one, given that the town isn't and the village isn't that big, and the cost that it does incur. So yeah, I'm completely fine with it. Everything that Diana and Christina said is completely correct. I agree with that. So just, you know, there's a lot of people, but also given all that, I personally, given the magnitude of this, would be fine if it was put up for referendum.
2 minutes.
I yield the floor. I would just
she's actually giving you 2 minutes, but it's okay.
I know, but there's probably other people who want to talk. But again, given the magnitude of the change, I would be fine with putting it up for referendum. I also know that, you know, it has the opportunity, even if it doesn't pass, it might pass in the future, and I'm fine with that. So,
thank you very much, Kate. Anything from you, or are you doing a ditto?
It's a ditto. But honestly, like, from the dispensaries that I have been to in other states when I have visited, it's suburbia that's going. It's not an underbelly. This is a market that has been heavily regulated when it has been legalized. And it's run in a way that, you know, if the kids are getting their hands on it, they're not getting it from the dispensaries. That's been a problem. That's not a new problem. That's an old problem. This has been going on for decades. It's no different than when we were in high school. So it's the reality of it. I know as parents, sometimes we like to believe that our children are not behaving like we did when we were 16, but that's every generation. So, I mean, I'm totally fine with the idea of having dispensary or having lounges here. It can be regulated. It could be done right.
Prohibition does not work. Prohibition does not work. Prohibition does not work.
I got it.
Because if people are going to get it, it's legal, whether they get it in Ossining, whether they get it wherever it happens to be, they're going to go get it, and it's still going to be in the community.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Mike, I'm bringing you back over as an attendee. And next up is KJ. You're coming over as a panelist. And if you can please unmute yourself and turn on your camera, please. Oh, hi, Kim.
Hi. I know it's my cell phone, so it came up as
KJ.
KJ.
Hello, Kim.
Hi. Uh-oh. Okay. This is very informative, actually. I've been listening to everybody, and it's really interesting information, and I kind of feel like I'm taking from all of the different points of view. So I'm hoping, I guess, that would be what the village board would be doing too. I think that people who have children at a specific age might feel a little differently than people who have children of a different age. I happen to have a 9th grader and a 7th grader. So I think the way some of us might look at it is, I heard a lot of alcohol liquor store bashing. I would just like to say that our liquor stores are owned by people who live in this community. And I think they would be horrified to hear that supposedly they're selling to underage, because I don't think that Adriana or Fran would appreciate having heard that. I think there's a distinction because you're right, prohibition doesn't necessarily work. It didn't work with alcohol, but we've had a lot of time to deal with alcohol. We've had a lot of time to deal with how do we deal with what does it look like? How do we deal with it? How do we deal with the messaging that's been for years and decades? How do we deal with enforcement? That's something that we don't have with this. And I'm hearing a lot of stories about medical marijuana, and I don't know necessarily, and I clearly am saying this, I don't know what the studies are with respect to the communities with legalization of recreational versus this medical marijuana situation. And also I heard Trustee Lopez was talking about from 90 something to 2015. And I actually believe that some of the recreational
2 minutes
legalization happened in the early 2000s, around that time of 2015, maybe a little bit before. And so I don't know that the studies really followed that and the kids. I didn't know that there was the ability to opt out and then opt in. I do think that the village would want to look at issues with respect to lounges, because that does bring people who would then be smoking and then driving, and we have the enforcement issue. So that's a bigger, different issue than dispensaries. And zoning would be something you guys would really want to look at. So I truly support the ability to opt out and opt in, if you have that ability to do that, to really look at what everybody else is doing and what how the state's going to handle it. Because having worked for the state, I know that they like to pass laws before they know what they're going to do about it. Often they don't have the logistics in place. So that might be something for you guys to think about. But thank you for this. This was really interesting.
Thank you, Kim. Much appreciated.
Okay, thanks, Kim. I'm printing you back over as an attendee. And now, Catherine Crossling, congratulations to you also. You're on your way over as a panelist. If you can unmute and turn your camera on, that would be great. And introduce yourself to those that may not know you.
Okay, great. Hi. Okay, I'm like cooking a roast literally right now.
Unless you're planning to share it with us, unless you're planning to share it, too much information.
I don't think I can get it over there in time. So I'm speaking tonight just as Catherine Crossling. I actually live in the town of Yorktown, and my kids go to Ossining schools, not speaking in any kind of official capacity. And I just wanted to say thank you for discussing this. There's a lot of good information out there. You know, I worked as a DA for 6 years in the South Bronx, or in the Bronx. I worked in the South Bronx, but it served the whole Bronx. So I saw two sides to this before. Essentially, at the end of my service, marijuana was effectively decriminalized, although the statute is still on the books. I saw how marijuana arrests were used to justify taking people's benefits away and their housing away, and served as a way to ensnare folks into the criminal justice system, especially people of color. I certainly support no longer having it on the books as a criminal offense. But I also saw the drunk driving arrests and the intoxication arrests, and how incredibly difficult it was to prove those in a court, even when you had a police officer who was able to testify as to the smell of the marijuana at the traffic stop, the erratic driving, and then it was essentially left up to a jury to decide whether or not that met the level of intoxication required to dole out any kind of consequences. And more often than not, those cases did not make it past a jury, even when there were accidents and serious injuries. So I don't know where I necessarily fall personally on this issue. I do have concerns about the ability to enforce. I have concerns, particularly if people are engaging in cannabis tourism into Ossining, the burden that would place on our police department. I think maybe I would love to see if there are studies out there of similar communities like Ossining within counties such as Westchester, and just take a side-by-side comparison of their stats, I think might be helpful for everyone in the town and the village who's thinking about this. So I hope that we can get our hands on some of that data and it can be shared going forward. But thank you for the dialogue. I appreciate it. And I look forward to more.
Thank you so much. And yes, congratulations. And I forgot that you were a DA in the Bronx. Very helpful to hear the perspective on both sides and the thoughtfulness that comes with it. So very much appreciated. I'm sure there will be lots of studies coming out now because every municipality is asking what you are, and we were asking, let's look at some data. Where is it for the other states that have been involved? All good stuff. Thank you for the input.
I think Great Barrington in Massachusetts might be a great place to start if you haven't looked at them already.
Yeah, I've been there. I've looked at it, but I haven't looked at the data. On my list to call their mayor, actually. I appreciate that as well, reminding me.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Right, thank you,
and enjoy the
Catherine.
meal. Jamie?
Okay, I'm making you over to, moved you over. So the next person to speak is Ellen Morehouse, followed by Jermaine Smith, and then by Beth Sniffen. So Ellen, I am going to
I'd
bring
like
you
to
over.
just make one little announcement. We're running a little bit late. It's our first one, so we'll excuse ourselves. But we're going to end with Olga. I can't pronounce the last name, Montes. So if you want to raise your hand, we're going to stop with Olga, who's about the fifth or sixth person, and for the evening. Just trying to say, please don't raise any more hands, and we'll figure out through emails how to get your input.
Do you want me to give you? Do you want me to read the order of the rest of the people then, so that they know that they've been recognized, that they'll speak? Okay, so Ellen, oops, sorry.
Yes,
Still have
please,
the
sorry.
timer going. Ellen Morehouse, yeah, sure. Ellen Morehouse, followed by Jermaine Smith, Beth Sniffen, Acacia Moriello, Jennifer Cabrera, Jay Miller, and then as Mayor Levin said, Olga Montanez. Not very good pronouncing. Okay, Ellen, I am bringing you over as a panelist. If you can please unmute and turn on your camera and tell us your relation to the Village of Ossining. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
And I am having a hard time turning on my camera.
It's okay. We hear you.
Hi, I live in the town of Ossining, right off of Route 134, but I shop and use many services in the Village of Ossining. So I feel like you get some of my tax dollars. I'm here tonight as a private citizen, but professionally I work in substance abuse prevention, and I want to share several points of view. First of all, any study that was done on marijuana in youth before 2017, before 2019 isn't valid, because now the #1 way that young people in the United States are using marijuana is by vaping. So all of the studies that now show that the states that have marijuana dispensaries in those communities, there are much higher rates of youth marijuana use. And there's definitive research from the most respected publications. And I will send all of that to all of the board members, so you all have that. But also what I want to share are things that haven't been discussed tonight. So for example, the National Association of Realtors is very concerned about this also, and has shown that for properties within a half mile around dispensaries that sell retail marijuana, recreational marijuana, I'm sorry, not medical, there is a decrease in property values ranging from 3 to 4%. There are also very clear studies showing increases in impaired driving from in communities that have recreational dispensaries. And I want to just use a quick example. Many of you have gone to Stop and Shop when you're hungry, and you're really, really hungry, and you buy a bunch of bananas, and you eat a banana before you even get out of the parking lot. And that's what happens with people who buy recreational marijuana. Many times they want it now, and therefore they're driving under the influence. It's also really important to know that in the states that have legalized recreational marijuana, 50 to 80% of the municipalities in those states have opted out. So I'm not going to go into all the data. I will share that with you, but I want to echo what so many people have said, that I don't understand why Ossining would want to be an experiment. The Cannabis Control Board is going to make all of the regulations. The village will not have any say over things like, can parents walk in with their 15-year-old children, or what products are going to be sold, or whether a banner can be hung at the Little League field saying, the Ellen Morehouse Dispensary supports Ossinings's Little League. There'll be so many different ways that recreational dispensaries will be able to advertise. So why be an experiment? Let's opt out. December 31st, when some of the rules are in, or January 15th or February 15th of the next year, the village can always opt in. I just don't want to be living in a community that's going to be a guinea pig. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morehouse. And do please send us some of those studies. A couple of new things that are very interesting. So that's why we have public meetings. Thank you. And thank you for shopping in Ossining.
Thank you, Ms. Morehouse. Jermaine Smith, I'm going to be bringing you over now. That will be followed by Beth Sniffen. So Jermaine, if you can unmute and turn on your camera, that would be great. And introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Jermaine Smith. I live in the village of Ossining. And I have a lifelong resident of Ossining, work at a higher ed institution here in Westchester, and also have 2 community engagement and youth programs here in Ossining. And I'm trying to figure out, I guess my question, because I'm hearing so much from everyone on all the citizens and the concern about the village not being ready. So one point of clarification of you guys from your point of view is how much you guys know about, because this is not a new topic. This has been going on for years. And what the conversation sounds like, you guys know nothing about what's going on. We have to wait a year for you guys to do the research. So I'm just want to get like some clarification of where we stand with that, the amount of due diligence that we have been doing, that you guys have been doing as a board, because it's just why are we not ready and what that year is going to wait, what that year is going to do for us as a board. And I think we're conflating a couple of issues. So one, the separation between having dispensaries here and having the youth using them. And I think we're overlapping some of these conversations. And I think we have to separate those conversations from what we're trying to do here, because there's overlap in everything. So I know people are comparing the alcohol in liquor stores to the dispensaries and things like that. And there is an overlap because youth get alcohol either from 7-Elevens or things, they get people to buy from. So there's some overlap in use. And I think from what I've seen and understand and the data I've seen is that these places are more highly regulated and harder to get into and harder for the kids to get access to once they are in these locations, harder than the e-cig, because I think we have an opiate problem. I think we have an alcohol problem. I think we have an e-cigarette problem in the village. And those are easier to get than from what I'm seeing and what I've heard from these dispensaries. It's easier to get even with those things in place. So I think we're talking about the zoning and legislation. I think, what it sounds like for some of the people, it sounds like this scare tactic where if we opt in, it's going to be this wild, wild west. It's going to be dispensaries across from all the schools and all.
2 minutes.
And I think one thing we have to understand is that opting in gives the opportunity to not only get that revenue or whatever, even if that's not the, whatever it is, but it's also an opportunity for someone to have a business here and whatever within that. But the board has an opportunity to also come in and set the restrictions, set the guidelines for what goes on in the village as far as where the dispensaries are located, where can the use be, and you guys have the control over that. So, being on the forefront of that and having that conversation, because this is happening across the nation, is happening, at some point it's going to happen here. I think doing it and just getting it, using that, one thing I believe we should do is I think we should opt in and take that potential revenue and use it towards education. I think I'm opting into some programs to try to keep it out of the hands of the youth. And I think that revenue will be beneficial to a lot of the community organizations to help to educate the community, help educate the youth and keep them away from it, because it is detrimental to the development of brains. And I understand that dynamic, but there's ways to do that. And I think you guys have done that due diligence. I think you guys understand that. And I think the next step is to opt in and then put the laws in place to keep it out of the hands of kids, put it in the right locations, keep the zoning and keep the control of it in the hands of the board. And that's coming from someone who works with the kids. I hate the idea of them being able to use it. And I've grew up here and I went to school, and we had marijuana in school when in the 90s and stuff. So it's not a new problem. And we had drug use in communities that every community I've ever visited. So this is nowhere near a new problem. I think what we have now is an opportunity to really put it under a microscope, really control the location, the distribution, and the use of that as much as possible. And I think that's what we should do. That's just coming from me as an individual, just like everyone else is saying. So I hope that was helpful, and you're more than welcome to engage in any kind of dialogue to help whichever direction we go in.
Thank you, Jermaine. Super helpful. Always nice to see you. Thank you for that. Jamie?
Thanks, Jermaine. So the next person is Beth Sniffen, followed by Acacia. So Beth, you are coming on over. If you can introduce yourself and turn your microphone on and your camera on as well. Thank you.
Hold on. Camera on. You see me?
And we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Loud and clear. Good evening.
Good evening. So I just want to, my name is Beth Sniffen. I'm at 3 Stormy Town Road. So I think I'm in the village. I always mix it up.
We'll keep that a secret. We'll let you figure it out. You're still welcome to the forum.
I see, Karen, you're shaking your head. I see it. I see it. My husband shakes his head with me also.
If you're on Stormy Town Road, you are in town.
Yes.
Oh,
we
no.
all knew that, but we want to welcome you anyway.
My husband's like, you know where you live. You've been here how many years now? Almost 20 years. Oh no, it's been almost 25 years. But I think I'm both, right? You're in Ossining. So I think that, I have a letter, but I'm not going to read the letter. I think that we all know what this is. So I'll submit the letter to you guys. And I think, we're all talking about youth. And I think that we all don't want youth to have, to be smoking marijuana. I think that's a given. I think that I honestly, it does hurt me when people are saying, well, the kids are smoking marijuana now and it really doesn't, matter. They're going to get it anyway. So being on the coalition, just having that attitude, it is just, it is something that I don't want to really hear adults say. I would like them to say, we want to do something and help the youth not do it. So that's always the way that I would like to approach that. I think that because New York State does not have these regulatory committees in place, and opting out is available. I think that doing that right now, I think that that's the approach that we should do, because it's probably the conservative approach, but I think it gives us time to really look at what we're doing, how to do it, and how to do it the right way. And then we can opt in. I don't think that, I'm not saying we shouldn't ever opt in, but I think that there's so many unknowns right now. We can zone, we can do all these things, and then we can opt in. But I think opting out right now, because we can't ever opt out after that point. And I think that that is the approach that we should do. We should just pause right now. So the pause approach is for me.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate all of the work that all of you do. Thank you.
Right back at you for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. I am going to put you back over as an attendee, and then Acacia, we are going to bring you over, followed by Jennifer Cabrera. Acacia, are you here? there you are. If you can please unmute and turn on your camera, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm up. Oh, there we go. Oh, hi. Just wanted to chime in with a couple
We just
things.
wanted, in case you had just name and sort of relationship to
Sorry,
Ossining,
yes.
if you will.
Sorry,
We
I
all
know
know you now, but
so my name's Acacia Moriello. I live in the Village, and I've been here for about 4 years. I have 2 young children, just to respond to a couple of things that we've heard tonight, I definitely think the points about youth are a little interesting and maybe perhaps overblown. I think we definitely need to delve into more research and more recent research about the impacts of legalization on youth specifically. But just to share an anecdote from my own experience, when I was in high school, when they surveyed folks about their illicit substance use, basically, they found that more of our high schoolers had used marijuana versus alcohol because it was easier for them to get, because nobody was like checking IDs and things like that. I think that with regulation, there's an opportunity to do better with keeping these sorts of things out of the hands of youth than if we continue to leave it to, try to keep it swept under the rug. However, I definitely share some of the concerns folks have brought up about about having on-site usage as opposed to dispensaries. I think with dispensaries, again, usually if you're getting it, that it's not the same thing as if you're consuming on site. And I think that some of the tax revenue that we might receive if we are using if we are allowing on-site use might be then, just sort of go in one end and then back out to police enforcement when it comes to things like that. So I think, again, there's some research that perhaps needs to be done. And I would just also say that I would support a referendum just to get a clear sense of where the community actually stands. Sorry, one of my children decided to.
I don't think you have to apologize. I've said this before. It's my favorite sound in the world. There's no apology needed. This entire forum is about the future of our community, and it's your daughter, right?
My son, my younger son.
Oh, it's your son. All good noise, no worries.
But yes, I think that getting a clear sense of where community sentiment actually lies would be important. I think we heard from we heard a letter, and we heard a list of signatories on that letter, and then we heard from a lot of those signatories on the call. I suspect, just based on some other chatter I've seen online, that the anti-folks might be a little bit overrepresented in this public meeting than in the actual community. So some sort of polling even or referendum, I think, would be good, just to see where actual community sentiment lies on this. And I'll leave it at that, because a lot of folks have brought up some really amazing points, and my son is yelling at me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm speaking to the mute, so I'm sorry. So Acacia, I put you back into attendee list, and Jennifer Cabrera, I am going to bring you over now as a panelist. If you can introduce yourself, turn on your camera and unmute, that would be great.
Hey, I am Jennifer Cabrera. I live in the Village of Ossining on Gates Avenue. And I wanted to, and I'm sorry, I did miss parts of the meeting, so I hope I'm not repeating anything that anyone else has said already. But I did want to point out a few things that I think people may not be aware of when it comes to the MRTA and the way the bill actually came about. So this bill actually was written by an advocacy organization. And full disclosure, it's one that I used to work for before I was in my current job. So I actually know a lot of the people who were involved in helping the legislature craft this legislation and getting it through. It was not written by the industry. The industry was actually intentionally excluded. So I think that a lot of the fear that people have about what might happen if we legalize marijuana may be misplaced. Another thing that I think is important to mention, and I know Trustee Lopez mentioned a few other studies, but I did want to mention that there was actually a study done last year, maybe the year before, by the CDC and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, you know, the same people that we're trusting to tell us what we need to do with regard to the coronavirus while we're in this pandemic. They did a study of all the states where marijuana has been legalized, and they found that youth use of marijuana actually decreased. So not that it was flat, not that it went up just a tiny bit, it actually decreased in a lot of those states. So I think that when we are thinking about this, we should keep in mind that a lot of the things that people are afraid of just haven't been proven when you are looking at statistics like that. The way that this legislation was crafted, again, it is very much
2 minutes.
Thank you. It's very much written with regard to helping communities. It is not something that the industry is trying to like make a whole bunch of money out of. So I think that it would be important to consider not opting out, and let's do this in Austining. Let's be leaders, and let's bring in this revenue that we can use to make our community better, because that's really what it's for, and that's what it'll do. So that's all.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Actually, you may have come in late, but I would say that you did not actually duplicate.
Good.
You've actually given us more information. I'm sure everybody appreciates it. Always nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you all too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Something funky happened on my list. All of a sudden people entered because we sort of said who we're going to hear, because we do need to bring this evening to conclusion.
It's still in the same order.
It is? Okay, it was
because
jumping
Olga,
around.
Yeah, because Olga's still the last person.
Okay.
So I've got Jennifer Miller, Aaron Moore, and then Olga Montanez, and then that is it. So just those three. Jay Miller, I am bringing you over now. So we ask that you turn on your camera, unmute, and tell us who you are. Thank you.
Hello, how are you? Let me see if I can get going here. Full screen. Let me go back to full screen. And where is my camera here? Okay.
There you are. Welcome.
Welcome, guys. How are you? Okay, my name is Jeff Miller. I live now in the village of Austining. I was raised as a child in the town of Austining. So I've been in Austining for almost 60 years, okay? I have a lot to say on this subject, but let me just start by saying the sky is not falling, okay? I believe everybody has an opinion on whether we should have a dispensary or not. And I learned when my time in the service that our opinions are like your rear end, okay? Everybody has one and they all stink. Now, everybody who's gonna present evidence and studies that say, oh, we should do this or we shouldn't do that, they're researching and they're gonna be more prone to present those studies that back their side of the argument. Because there's plenty of studies out there for both sides of the argument. So you're gonna get the study that backs your side, and that's the study you're gonna present, all right? I went to Austining High School. I went to Austining High School back in the 70s. Back in the 70s, there wasn't a dispensary on the planet. And guess what? I had no problem starting to smoke marijuana right there in Austining High School, finding it right there in Austining High School. And there wasn't a dispensary to be had anywhere on the planet. So to sit there and think that a dispensary is gonna create this big issue with the youth, I think is way off base. As you can see, I have a little extra hardware now. This came from me smoking cigarettes. There is probably, what, 300 places in town that sell cigarettes that we know is putting people in the ground.
2 minutes.
Nobody's up in arms about those places, okay? I've had a medical marijuana card. I know what the dispensaries are like. There is no child walking into a dispensary and walking out of there with any product. Ain't gonna happen. No way, no how, impossible. Take that argument off the table. We as adults have spoken. The people who enjoy using marijuana over whatever other drug of choice, because everybody has a drug of choice, whether it's liquor, marijuana, opioids, everybody has a drug of choice. We're all human and we're all at fault, okay? The adults have spoken and we said enough with the prohibition on marijuana. As an adult, I should have the choice to go and get the drug of my choice. I could do it with everything else, well, not opioids, but I could do it with alcohol, I could do it with cigarettes, right? I could do it with caffeine, I could do it with food. I don't understand why we're all up in arms about something that is as regulated as a dispensary is gonna be and saying, oh, the children, that's ridiculous, okay? Ossining, how many empty storefronts do we have in Ossining? Every one of those empty storefronts is a loss of revenue for the village of Ossining. They're trying to make it up by sticking condos in everywhere. We're jamming people. We got people coming out our ears because we're putting condos everywhere. And we're saying, oh, well, we're going to get the tax revenue. The tax revenue from a condo is eaten up by the children going through the school, by the garbage men picking up their trash. The infrastructure eats up that revenue. That's not a gain, all right? It's a push at best. And for the most part, it's a loss. We have a dispensary, we're gonna bring people into town. If we have that and town over doesn't, maybe we'll get people from that town coming into our town to visit the dispensary. Maybe while they're here, they'll visit some of our other businesses that haven't decided to close up shop and beat it out of town because the taxes are too high. Maybe that revenue, dare I say it, I know it'll never happen, but maybe it would actually go to maybe lower our taxes instead of increasing our taxes. Again, this is my opinion. It's one man's opinion, all right? I have actually smoked marijuana. A lot of people who are voicing their opinion have never smoked marijuana. They're talking merely from their opinion and what they heard and what they've been convinced to believe about it with having no firsthand knowledge of what actually happens. I respect the professionals here that are in that type of business, all right? I'm a professional too. I'm a teacher. I'm at work right now. That's why I wasn't at the beginning of the meeting. I had my online class. I'm sitting in my classroom. I have adults in front of me, right, that have just come out of high school. Every one of them is very familiar with the marijuana. There is no dispensaries. There hasn't been any dispensaries around any of these guys. They know what the deal is because it's all over. To try and isolate the dispensary after we've been fighting the fight as adults to have the choice to purchase the drug of our choice. And now we can have that option right in our own town that would help our own town. It's a no-brainer, guys. You can't believe all the hype, all right? Everybody's gonna bring you their argument that supports their cause, all right? Let's talk to some people who have firsthand knowledge. If recreational marijuana was such a problem, I would think the place to look would be Colorado. They've had recreation, they were the first ones to put recreational marijuana on the books. They've had the most experience with it. If you're gonna call a mayor, call up the mayors in Colorado. They're the ones that have the most experience with what we're talking about here. They'll be able to give you the best insight. Apparently it's working in Colorado because Colorado is making millions of dollars in tax revenue off of their dispensaries. Why are we turning a blind eye to that tax revenue when our town is hurting? That doesn't make sense to me. Don't say no
So
to that.
we're about 3 minutes over the 6-minute point.
I'll wrap it up. I apologize.
Okay.
Bear in mind, guys, this cigarettes gave me this, not marijuana. The doctor gave me a medical marijuana card. I don't know any doctor that's prescribing an alcohol card or a cigarette card, all right? So maybe the dangers of marijuana aren't as bad as everybody is believed to be, all right? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate all of your comments. Thank you.
Great night, guys.
You too.
Thank you.
We
Mr.
have two
Miller?
more people, right? Aaron Moore and Olga
then Olga.
Montes.
Okay, so Mr. Moore, I'm bringing you over now as a panelist. If you can please unmute and turn on your camera and tell us who you are, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Aaron Moore, and I belong to an organization in the village of Ossining, the Ossining NAACP. I have mixed feelings about this issue. I need to say that I think, first of all, I want to say very good, Jay Miller. And I want to say that I think we need to consider what it is that we're really concerned about here, whether it's the money that the sale of the product is going to make, or whether we are concerned about the people and the children of the village. I don't know which at this point that many of the people here are concerned with. That's what we need to really consider, whether it's the money that's coming in or whether it's the people, because that usually is the problem. The people want to think, or they want so much to make the money, not realizing that's why we're having a problem with cigarettes. Nobody's concerned about the damage that cigarette does. They're concerned with how much money and how much taxes they can make. Every time you turn around, let's raise the tax on cigarettes because of, I mean, they went from, I'm so happy that I quit the $4.75 and now they're $12. Okay, thank you. I think I made my point.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron Moore. Very much appreciated.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. I'm going to move you back over. And now, Olga, I am going to bring you over. You are the last person to be able to participate live on this meeting. So when you come over, if you could please introduce yourself, turn on your camera and unmute. Thank you. We see you, Olga. I don't know if you're unmuting right now.
Hi. Yeah, it kicks me out real quick and then put me back in.
Great. Well, we see you and we hear you. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this meeting, for the opportunity to have everyone speak their minds and their concerns. I'll try and make it as quick as possible. I grew up in Mount Pleasant, and I have been an Ossining resident for 18 years or so. I am a parent. I have a high school graduate. He graduated last year, and I have a middle schooler. I have been a part of what I assume I understand Belly. I know from the inside because of my peers, my social group, what drugs does in general. It hits people in different ways, in different directions. Not everyone falls victim. People can use it recreationally. I don't judge my friends who, you know, after high school continued and they're in their 40s and they're still using it. That's their choice. I chose not to continue post-high school and reluctantly joined the marijuana ban years back because my health conditions left me very little choice. I'm not a big fan of pharmaceuticals either. I tend to be more on the holistic, organic side of the pool, and I've had to use the dispensary in White Plains. I don't have a problem. They have a free delivery service. I don't mind using that delivery service, or if I'm going to be in the area, I have stopped by to pick it up. So, you know, there's a lot of merit to a little bit of everything that everybody has said. I've never been a fan of generalizing or statistical data analysis because I don't think any—
2 minutes.
At post-surgery, I was for a year, and I'm thankful that it didn't affect me in an addictive way. However, I think the smart thing for us to do is to opt out, and then if after research and after seeing and having more education on how it's going to affect us, I think whoever brought up the tax situation, I would be concerned. I'm a homeowner as to how a dispensary here would affect our taxes. I think we need more information, and we can't jump the gun to make a decision this fast. I think be educated with anything. When you buy a car, when you buy a home, you do a lot of research. You want to make sure you know how you're spending your money and that your investment is made correctly. And so anyway, thank you for letting me speak, and I hope that we take our time with this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your input, and thank you for staying with us. So now, as well as the other attendees, is about 39 still on. There was as many as, I think, 59 earlier.
64.
64. This is great. All really interesting stuff. I'm going to stop speaking. Whoops. If my colleagues would like to say anything or add, I will turn it over to them with one comment. Anybody that wants to reach us, bot@villageofossining.org. That goes to all of us. And if you want to put in the subject line cannabis, so we get many, many emails, we know exactly to search for that and make sure that you're heard, and we can add that to a Q&A. Do any of my colleagues want to add something before we sign off and thank everyone for their participation?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. I knew there would be a wide range of opinions, and indeed there were. Everyone's opinion has validity, depending on where they're coming from, their value systems, their concern about our youth, which everybody is concerned about. My feeling is that we have an opportunity. And it is an opportunity we should take very seriously. And it's an opportunity that could help our village, especially the people who need the help. You know, I don't know if that tax revenue is going to go toward, you know, putting lights in the trees or toward providing food for people. These are things that we would have to decide. There's a social justice side to this that didn't get, in my opinion, talked about enough tonight. This bill was created to help communities that have been affected by the war on drugs negatively. I believe our community is one of them. And I believe that we need to look at this from a perspective that may not be one we usually take. Those of us who, I mean, my life won't change one bit if we have a dispensary in this town or not, but maybe other people's will. And I have been to dispensaries in several states. I recommend that everyone go, whatever side of this you're on, just to look and see what we're talking about. Colorado, Washington State, Oregon, Massachusetts, you know, I've been in dispensaries in all of them. Not California, ironically, even though I'm from there, but I haven't been to California since they legalized it. But this is just because I'm curious to see the other side of it. I emerged unscathed. There are all different kinds of dispensaries. You know, in Colorado, there'd be funky little mom and pop one with, like, you know, this guy with a, you know, small inventory. In Fort Collins, there'd be like a Kmart for weed. I mean, it was incredible. But I think that Ossining is full of very smart, caring, empathic people. And I think we can all figure out how to do this right. And we're not making a decision right away. We are pausing. We have till the end of the year. All right, that's another 6 months and change. So we're not, you know, making any decisions right now. You know, we have a lot of talking to do, but I really appreciate everyone coming and speaking their truth and their feelings, and we do take all of it seriously. And you know, I look forward to actually continuing to have this conversation. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Trustee White. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share?
I'll go. Thank you, Mayor. And let me know if I get muted at any point. So I want to echo what Trustee White said. Gratitude for folks who came out, irrespective of how you feel about the issue. Having such a wide range of opinions is really, really important. One of the perspectives that we didn't hear too much from tonight was from law enforcement. And one of the reasons that I named that is because the chief has mentioned in previous meetings about how one of the reasons why he finds folks go to our parks to smoke or to drink is in particular if they don't have a lot of space at home. And particularly to smoke, if you're smoking cannabis and you're sitting in front of your stoop and it's a busy street and people are saying, please don't do that in front of my house or in my house, and you're trying to find somewhere to find some space, that is a space where we create lounges that might create an option for folks where you're, as Mr. Galata said, not having to walk your granddaughter through the park and having to smell it, right? You're giving folks an opportunity to use it if they choose in a space that's not going to be disruptive to the larger community. But that's just one perspective, right? That's why throughout this process, as we make a decision on which way to go, I want to hear as many perspectives as possible, particularly from those that we haven't heard from yet, in order to hear what are the trade-offs for different directions to go. So thank you once again for this first of what I hope become many town hall opportunities for us to hear from the community in a little bit more free flow form. And thanks again.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. Deputy Mayor Quesada, we're not obligating anyone to speak at this point, but if you would like to share some thoughts.
Well, since that you mentioned me, so I guess I have no choice now.
Sorry.
I can never take an opportunity like this. Obviously, this is a first of many to come, and hopefully moving forward for the future boards as well, to have this kind of dialogues with our community. In regards to the particular topic that we have in hand, obviously there's a lot more work that we, at least in my part, I need to do. There's a lot of benefits to a lot of the things. There's also some concerns that I heard from members of the community, which we all represent. We are elected by all the people throughout the village. So to me is, what is the pros and cons, obviously, and what is the balance? As someone mentioned, some people are going to be happy with the decision, whatever decision we make, and other people are not going to be too happy with whatever decision we take. But whatever the decision that the board takes on this particular issue, we have to make sure we have all the facts behind, and all the topics in hand are done within kind to the research that we need to accomplish at the end. As we know, the state put a regulation on place, which they're not going to be implemented for another 2 years, I believe. So it's something that, yes, you have a deadline, but we still don't know what we have to do at the end of the day. Sure. So that's what the state has done, not the first time. It won't be the last time. But in the meantime, municipalities like us, we have to kind of figure out how do we make this work in either way, either direction we take. So there's, I thank everyone that was participating in this call and anyone that may be watching this. So if you do want to reach out to me, I have always been given my personal cell phone number, which is 914-830-9391. You can definitely reach out to me, or you can definitely reach out to the rest of the board. As the mayor mentioned, we have an email. We will all get whatever email you send it to us, either pros and cons for this particular topic or any topic at this matter. But I do want to thank for the time that you guys have taken to reach out to us and to be part of this dialogue, so which is very important for us, I believe. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. I will say goodnight by thanking the staff for being here, for helping, for bringing people over and sending them back and making sure everything works smoothly, and to Stuart Kahan, our attorney, for being here to answer some questions. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and more to come, and have a good evening.